Anyway, guys, this is my magicka Dragonknight for the Waking Flame patch. And I have to tell you, man, the changes to the game with Waking Flame have actually benefited the magDK in a lot of ways, and the class feels a lot better this patch compared to last patch. I thought Blackwood is a really rough patch for the class, with just how fast-paced the meta was, but with the changes to battlespirit, kind of slowing things down a little bit, combined with some of, you know, the new CP stars that really benefit the magDK playstyle, as well as one of the new rewards of the worthy sets. The DK build that I have feels really solid, feels really good. I've been having a great time with it. It's pretty much very similar to my Overburn build. If you guys liked and watched that build, it's really similar in a lot of ways, but I did just change two of the sets to be two different sets. But like, besides that, the format in terms of weights, traits, enchants, like all that stuff is exactly the same. So I'll show you guys what we are running. So the first thing that we have is one piece of Valken Scoria. This is for some spell penetration. Spell penetration is a great offensive stat. I don't really feel I need any more magicka or stamina on the build. You know, and the spell pen, it's 1500 spell pen, gets me at a little bit over 12k spell penetration, which I think is a perfectly acceptable amount. And so I think this is a really solid one piece because we do run a mythic on the build. We do run the Malakath's Band of Brutality. Now, because this build is a 3-3-1, 3 heavy, 3 light, 1 medium, our crit is pretty low, only at 14% on the front bar. And so I don't really care about crits because I'm not getting very many crits. And so it's much better, in my opinion, to give ourselves a flat damage increase via Malakath than to try to worry about crit. If you don't have Malakath, can't get Malakath, I personally recommend going with Balorg. Balorg is absolutely fantastic, but if you can get Malakath, I definitely do recommend it. Now, our primary defensive set this patch is Buffer of the Swift, a line of maximum magicka, 2 lines of armor, and it reduces damage taken from players by 10%. Now, the reason I've switched from Pariah to Swift is 2 reasons. Number 1, our other set that we are using, and I'm sure you can probably guess it, is a 5-piece heavy set. The second reason is that I personally feel that Pariah this patch requires Undeath to be paired with it. And the reason I say that is because of Hrothgar's Chill. Without Undeath, you are going to be taking so much damage if you're at low HP with Pariah on, because Hrothgar is just going to full send you. It's going to hit super hard. But Undeath helps mitigate a lot of that damage, helps keep it a little, you know, a bit lower, because especially as your health gets lower, you're getting a lot of percent mit. And so it helps, I think, keep Pariah viable. But without it, I think you just take a little bit too much damage when you eat a lot of damage with Pariah, like with Hrothgar, just a little bit too much. So I changed to Swift because, like I said, I also did need a light armor set here as well. It's a great light armor defensive set. Gives a lot of effective mitigation. And again, surprise, surprise, we are running Hrothgar. Line of health, armor, offensive penetration, and then stunning or immobilizing an enemy will cause them to burst the frost magic. Chilled status effect. 26% of total physical and spell resistance is frost damage within 8 meters every 7 seconds. This perfectly aligns with CC immunity. This just hits so freaking hard on everyone. It deals an insane amount of damage. It combos really well with Leap because it's got the same radius as Leap. So if you Leap somebody and hit them, you're going to be getting the frost damage and the fire damage, dealing just tons to everybody. Fossilizing somebody, especially if you fossilize a tanky target, it's going to deal a lot of damage. It's just incredibly strong, and it's one of the best sets this patch, and so I do run it on my magDK. And then on the back bar, I do run 2 pieces of critical riposte. This is so that I don't need to run the critical resist CP star, because this gives us 424 critical resistance, which is about 6% crit resistance, while the star is 10%. So, you know, I think this is good enough for the back bar to give us some extra crit resist, which allows me to run other CP stars to augment my character in other ways. So I do really like critical riposte for that reason. Like I said earlier, we're in a 3-3-1. 1, 2, 3 pieces of heavy, 3 pieces of light, and 1 piece of medium. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of impen, 2 sturdy, and 1 reinforced. We are using all max magicka enchants with 1 prismatic, so 6 magicka, 1 prismatic on the chest. Triple arcane, triple spell damage. I'm a big believer in arcane for magDK. I like having a bigger magicka pool. Gives me a lot more sustain. Hrothgar's Inferno Staff, that is charged. The reason that we use charged, let me actually put the Stream Raiders thing away because I feel like that might be blocking stuff. Okay. So the reason we run a charge staff here is because of combustion. Whenever we apply the burning status effect, which has no internal cooldown on application, can apply on as many people as are dealt flame damage. You know, it can apply on lash, embers, engulfing flames, leap. Like, if you apply the burning status effect, you get magicka back. And so, you know, you apply burning status effect to 3 people with engulfing flames, you get 1500 magicka. So that's what makes charged so incredibly strong. It increases the odds to do that, so it gives you a lot of sustain. And so the flame glyph as well also plays into that by giving us more sustain. I then run a powered one-handed weapon and a sturdy shield with a magicka glyph, and then I use drain magicka poisons on that back bar. In terms of our skills, we are using Flame Lash. We have a 10k unbuffed tooltip on Flame Lash. Just deals instant hit damage, and then if you strike an enemy that's immobilized or stunned, you set them off balance. And then if you target an off balance or immobilized enemy, this goes Power Lash, giving you a little bit more additional damage, and then healing you for a massive amount over 2 seconds. This is going to occur every 3 seconds. This is what allows the magDK to brawl. I know some people love Molten Whip, swear by Molten Whip, but Molten Whip changes the playstyle a lot. You play a lot more like a Nightblade, where you're trying to line up the 3-stack whip and just bang somebody with a really hard hit. But Flame Lash is more of that traditional dot and rot, brawl it out playstyle. And part of the reason I like Flame Lash is because you can stay offensive in situations where if I was using Molten Whip, I'd have to play defensive because of how big the heal from Flame Lash is. You're able to stay in the fight longer, heal yourself more, which means you need to coag less, which essentially gives you more sustain. So that's really why I like Flame Lash. Also looks cooler and sounds cooler. So big fan of that for that reason. Burning Embers is our single target dot. Heals us for 76% of the total damage inflicted when it ends. Gives us the burning status effect as well to essentially reduce this down to 2200. Fossilize our primary stun, deals damage after the CC break, immobilized for 3 seconds, cannot be blocked or dodged. Double stand burn, procs Hrothgar, best CC in the game in my opinion. Absolutely love this skill, although it does have its bugs with the Waking Flame patch, unfortunately. But very good skill, definitely recommend running this. Elemental Drain is going to be one of the biggest reasons that I still use a Destro Staff on the front bar. This gives us major breach, reducing our target's resistances. On top of that, we also do get Minor Magicka Steal for an effective 340 Magicka Recovery. The skill is free, gives you damage, gives you sustain. There's really not much more you could possibly ask for. It's a staple on all my builds. We also use Engulfing Flames. With your with Major Sorcery up, this will be at 10%. This gives us another dot on the build and increases our flame damage dealt by 10%. To give us a nice bit of a boost on all of our damage, you know, because basically most of what we're doing is flame, so this just gives us a flat increase. We also do use Leap. Leap is going to be a gap closer, primary burst ultimate, gives us a giant-ass shield. It looks cool as hell. It's just a super great ability. It's very versatile. You can use it in a lot of ways. Again, procs Hrothgar. Hrothgar also has the same radius as Leap, so this combined with the Hrothgar proc, like, you can just decimate some large groups of players, and it's really, really, really fun. Definitely recommend, obviously, using Leap on the DK. You gotta have the dunk. Back bar, we have Degeneration. This is going to be giving us another dot over 12 seconds, as well as our source of Major Sorcery. So, you know, in my opinion, this is better than using the Major Sorcery from Earthen Heart. It is more magicka efficient, I think. It gives us Mage's Guild passives, gives us another dot for more damage. Just a lot better, in my opinion. It's also extremely cheap. We use Cauterize as our primary hot in the build. You know, we don't really have a traditional hot as the, you know, Destro Sword and Board, and this is the best thing we can get. We also do get Major Prophecy from this on our back bar, which allows our Coag to still crit. Malakath kind of like dampens our offensive crits, but it doesn't affect defensive crits, which is why we run Cauterize on the back bar to get the chance for big Coags. So that's why we use this. I would like to see some small buffs to this, maybe make this like 16 seconds, proc every 4 seconds, gives us another heal over time, over the duration, so it might make it a little bit of a better hot, but right now it's kind of what we have as our best option here, so it is going to be what we use. We also do have Coagulating Blood, which is going to give us a pretty big instant heal. Do I still have my buff food up? I do. Okay, tooltip looked a little weird to me. Usually it's a little bit higher. I'm not sure why it's at 9.9. Usually it's a little bit over 10k, but regardless. Gives us a big heal. Coag's gotten buffed a good amount recently. It's a really solid skill right now, actually. It used to be such a pain in the butt to hit this, but now Coag actually heals for quite a bit. I do want to see the Major Fortitude change to a different buff since health recovery is kind of useless now. We also get this from potions already, but Coag is just the iconic burst heal for the magDK. Volatile armor is our source of major resolve and also gives us another dot. We then have elusive mist. I do run a stage 1 vampire on the magDK, and the reason that I run the stage 1 vampire is because I personally feel that it is the best kiting skill for the Magicka Dragonknight. And the reason that I say that is because of the fact that wings is a really bad skill. I want to like wings, I miss wings, it's just really bad. And the reason is it only gives you 2 seconds of snare immunity and only 2 effects on this skill. And yes, it's great that it dampens incoming range damage, which is what you want your movement ability to do, but it costs a lot. It only gives you 2 seconds of snare and root immunity. It is just not enough. It needs to give either a third effect, like every other skill that has 2 seconds of snare and root immunity, or it needs to give 4 seconds of snare and root immunity. Race against time, you just take way too much damage trying to kite with it. You have to burn a lot of stamina to kite with it. And so I just find Elusive Mist to be infinitely better. It's a great slot here, and with the way that we have the build set up, we can more than easily maintain the Magicka for this. We also then have Corrosive Armor on the back bar. This is a new one that we have with the new changes in Waking Flame. It's essentially like a hybrid offensive defensive because it limits our incoming damage. We get a poison dot, which especially now that like everything in ESO is like pretty much like kind of like hybrid in a way in terms of pen and the way that the passives are now, like the fact that it deals poison damage isn't a big deal. And especially with combustion and a charged staff, we're going to be getting a lot of stamina back with this. And then while active, the corrosive dot and our direct damage, lash, instant hit embers, instant hit engulfing flames, fossilize are all going to ignore resistance. So we're going to deal a lot of damage with this ability when it's up. So if you do like corrosive, bar swap, fossilize, power lash, like it's a lot of damage. I have been liking running defensive ults a lot more than just using temporal guard nowadays. So I switched to corrosive and I do like it quite a lot. In terms of our stats, we are chilling at 35.7k maximum magicka. I think that might be the bug with degeneration that gives me extra magicka on my front bar. I know for a fact that you are over 35k. 27.1k maximum health, 18.2k stam, 1068 magicka recovery. We got a 2900 spell damage, 23k spell resistance, 18.9k physical resist with 1800 crit resist. Back bar, the crit resist does go to 2250 with the spell resist at 25.1, physical resist at 20.6. Like I mentioned earlier, we are a vampire for mist form. By far, like, it's just so good. If you haven't tried vampire in a while, I recommend giving it another shot, especially if you're a Breton. They have lowered the penalties from vampire, a couple of times, so like it's so solid to use nowadays. We use Bewitched Sugar Skulls as our tri-stat food. Even with the health recovery being neutered in PvP, Bewitched Sugar Skulls is still really, really good because it gives the most health, magicka, and stamina. And we use the Atronach Mundus. Recovery Munduses are very, very effective and very stat dense. And so because of that, I do like to use them on a lot of my builds. So we do use the Atronach Mundus Stone. Moving into our champion points. We run Deadly Aim. Single targets skills. This also does, fun fact, buff your dots. So that's why we do run Deadly Aim. This also, of course, buffs slash as well. Mastered Arms for direct damage, lash, leap, things like that. So I find these to be the best 2 offensive CP stars. Defensively, we do Duelist Rebuff because anything that we're pretty much scared of in the game at the moment is a single target ability. And to take that a step further, any AoE skills that we would be scared of are direct damage AoE skills, which makes Ironclad better than Unassailable in most situations. Ironclad also will affect single target abilities, which again, we're scared of, those instant hit single target abilities, the ability to get one shot. And so Ironclad and Duelist Rebuff together really do work very, very well. We also have defensively, or for the red CP rather, Boundless Vitality for some extra health, Survival Instincts for 25% cost reduction with the status effect of core combats, that is block, dodge, break free, sprint, things like that. So it's really, really good. Gives us the ability to block. We also do run Sustained by Suffering. While you're basically under the effect of a negative effect, you get 150 stamina, magicka, and health recovery. So while you're actively PvPing. And then finally, we got Pain's Refuge. 20%, up to 20% damage reduction, 1% per negative effect on you. When you are 1vxing, you will have tons of negative effects on you. So this can ramp up really easily. And like these 2 CP stars are like so chef's kiss for magDK. They're super, super, super good. And Pain's Refuge, I think, was one of the biggest impactful, like one of the biggest impacts on like magDK survivability this patch. And it just feels really, really good. So I definitely recommend that for the CP. Potion wise, I use Tri-Stat Pots, all points into Magicka. We are a Breton. I personally recommend Breton or Imperial for the magDK. And I know someone on like my last video commented that they're like, yeah, you're too into Breton, Dark Elf's better, go fuck yourself, blah, blah, blah. But in my opinion, because the Magicka Dragonknight skills are very expensive, you get a lot of effective sustain with the Breton, giving you the cost reduction. Because, you know, factually, reducing a big number by a percentage is going to give you a bigger return, a bigger reduction than reducing a small number by a percentage, which makes Breton very desirable for something like the Magicka Dragonknight, because you have these really expensive skills. And so by reducing their costs with the Breton racial, you're getting a lot of cost reduction. On top of that, you also basically get a free Magicka recovery glyph with your one racial passive, with spell attunement. On top of that, you also get 4,600 resistance, which helps with being a vampire. And you also get 2,000 Magicka. And so it's like, yeah, you can be a Dunmer, sure, but you're going to have to make many more concessions for your sustain that I will not have to make. And so that is why I find Breton to be the best in my opinion. Imperial's the only other one I'd run because it's 6% cost reduction across the board. Core combat, ultimates, skills, everything. You get big boosts to your health and stamina, which is also fantastic for literally every class in the game. And then you can like adjust your Magicka with like food choices and shit otherwise. But to me, I feel like the sustain races have gotten a lot of love, and I feel that they are a little bit more stat dense than the more offensive races. You know, I'll use an offensive race on my Templar because my Templar's got a lot of sustain baked into it, but the magDK does not. So to me, Breton is the most useful there. In terms of our rotation, I'm actually doing this build live on stream, and so if you've been watching the stream the whole time, I'm going to sound like a broken record. But really quick, Tri-Stat Pots. We don't need crit because we are a Malakath build. Magicka Dragonknight, the key to playing Magicka Dragonknight successfully is buff and debuff maintenance. Volatile Armor, Cauterize, Degeneration, Elemental Drain, Engulfing Flames, and Burning Embers need to be maintained at all times. That's going to optimize damage, sustain, defensive capabilities, literally everything. Healing, everything matters on your buff and debuff maintenance. Besides that, your goal is going to be to hit those fossilizes, proc that Hrothgar, go into your power lashes. Sometimes what I've been doing recently too is if I notice a target getting kind of low, I actually won't fossilize and then leap. Sometimes I'll just leap because the Hrothgar with the leap deals so much damage. It catches them off guard. And then on top of that, you can power lash while they're in the air too. Kind of, dealer's choice there, what you want to do. Obviously, if they're like blocking a lot, line them up with the fossilize first. But sometimes I've been going just like straight into leap, and I found it to be really, really, really effective. Defensively, basically, your main goal is going to be to just hold block, cauterize, coag, and then kite with mist form. You also can, one of the great things about using Flame Lash is that you can actually, if you're getting kind of low, but not so low that you need to play really defensive, you can just stun someone in Power Lash. And so you'll be kind of flipping the script on them because you'll be going offensive, but you'll be healing yourself with Flame Lash. You can also refresh Burning Embers, although Burning Embers refresh isn't as impactful as it used to be. But that's kind of the main goal when you are playing the magDK build. For some reason, though, my tooltips are looking really weird down here, and I don't know why. Like, my lash tooltip is higher than it should be, and my coag is a little bit lower than it should be. I think Imperial City is being really weird, but they're really similar to the actual values. So, I think this was normally a little bit over 10k, and this was, like, a little tiny bit less, but regardless, the build does a lot of damage. The tooltips are great. It's a really fun build to play. You basically, like, this has been the most well-rounded build that I have played for the patch so far. I will be surprised if it doesn't get nerfed just because Hrothgar is so powerful. But as you can see, it's set up very similar to Overburn, but it's just got some of the new sets in it. But if you guys like the build, leave a like on it. Any questions, comment below. Subscribe for more YouTube content for ESO and MMOs. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the build. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. As always, I'm Dots Gaming. I'll see you all in the next one.